Hello, and welcome to the latest episode of the Low Budget Review Show, where we don't know how to hold a sign. The Low Budget Review Show. I am your host, Eric Smith, and today I am talking about Crossroads by Laurel Hightower. This is from Off Limits Press. There you go. And this is a story of a woman named Chris. Her son died in a tragic car accident. She hasn't gotten over it. She almost daily visits the roadside cross where the accident happened, and one day she cuts herself, and while she's at the cross, and some blood drips into the ground, and weird things start to happen. And as it says, oh, how far would you go to bring back someone you love? That's actually the first line of the description on the back. And then the last line: soon Chris is playing a dangerous game with forces beyond her control in a bid to see her son Trey alive once again. So I'll tell you right now, this is a gut punch of a book. It will squeeze your heart, kick you in the crotch. I was going to say nads, but not everybody has nads. But most people have a crotch. So I'm going to say it's going to kick you in the crotch. It's going to grab your heart and squish it. This is the first book I have read by Laurel Hightower, and what a way to start. Wow. So fantastic writing. Almost the entire thing is from Chris's perspective. There are a couple POV shifts towards the end, but mainly this is all Chris. We're just drenched in her perspective, her emotion, her pain. As someone who does not have children, I'm sure that I can't grasp the total enormity of what would be like to lose a child. I have lost family members. I understand what that is, but especially for a mother, the person who carried this life into the world. And so Chris is devastated by this. It's been over a year. As a matter of fact, we're coming up at the during the time of the story, they're coming up on the 2-year. I believe it's the 2-year anniversary, and she still has just found it so difficult to move on. And so when her blood spills on the ground, and it's not even at the grave site, it's at the site of his death. But when this blood spills on the ground and something starts to happen, we've already learned so much about her grief that it's easy to understand how she can take this something as a sign or something she might want to pursue, and the lengths she will go to. Obviously, I'm being cagey because, as always, I don't want to give anything away. Chris is an amazingly well-written character. And so we can completely empathize with her. I think we can completely understand why she ends up doing the things she does. Why she just keeps sort of accelerating isn't the right word, but I can't think of there's a word in particular I want to use, but it's locked up in my stupid dome right now and I can't think of it. But she keeps upping the ante. That's not what I actually want to say, but it fits. Wow, trying not to give anything away. It's a very short story. It's obviously novella, only 110 pages. As always, I have difficulty talking about something so short because so much of it is important and I don't want to give it away. But anyway, so yeah, just amazingly well written, full of emotion. Chris, obviously not the only character. The other characters are interesting. She has an ex-husband who I like the ex-husband. He's not the typical. There's so many tropes when it comes to types of characters, and usually when you, my experience anyway, um, 8 times out of 10, maybe less. I don't know. 75% of the time, when you have a divorced couple, there's enmity, there's anger, but that's not the case here. Chris actually gets along with her ex-husband. He's remarried and has a couple of kids, and she gets along with his new wife and with their daughters. So that was nice to see. And Chris has a neighbor, Dan, who's a little bit sweet on her, and I like his character. He's a really interesting character. He's a good guy, and it shows. And he cares about Chris, and he's worried about Chris. Um, and there's Chris's mother, who is the worst person in the book. um, and so we have, it's not a huge amount of characters, but there are this small group of characters. They're all interesting. Most of them are decent characters, but our focus is really on Chris, what she's going through, what she's willing to do. And there are so many things I want to talk about, but I can't because it would spoil what goes on. Um, yeah, and there's as much as the whole book just sort of takes your heart. I know I've said this before. It's taking your heart, and it's slowly squeezing, applying pressure. But there's a couple times where it just sort of clenches. Then it'll ease off a little bit, but you're still feeling that pressure, and it's slowly closing, and then it clenches again. And man, it's wild, and just fantastic, absolutely fantastic. Um, and I love that cover. That's really nice, very artistic. I would put that on my wall if it was a poster. Um, I'm definitely gonna have to check out more from Off Limits Press. Absolutely gonna check out more from Laurel Hightower. I gave this 5 out of 5 on Goodreads. Can't recommend it enough. If you just wanna spend an evening wallowing, which sometimes, I mean, we're horror fans, right? Although, I mean, so many different types of horror. The book I just finished recording a review for, Horrorama, go check out that review, um, had 3 novellas, all different types of horror. None of them as gut-wrenching as this. So I suppose, as horror fans, maybe you just like the hardcore horror. You want the gore and the craziness and the sex. Maybe you just like the spooky horror. You want a ghost story. So I can't assume, just because you're a horror fan, you're going to want to read this. But if you're a fan of a good story, if you're a fan of great writing, wonderful characterization, read Crossroads. It's not gory. It's not full of crazy sex. This isn't hardcore horror. It's not slasher horror. It's there's spookiness to it, and it's definitely emotional, and it's fantastic. I so want to talk about what goes on in this book, but it would give things away. I will mention there were as I was reading it. I don't know why I'm going to mention this because I can't get into specifics, but there was one movie in particular that I love, that it made me think of, simply because of something that was happening in the story. The movie that I'm thinking of and this story have nothing in common except for one thing that's sort of happening. And then there was a short story by Stephen King that I thought of, again, because of something that's happening in this story, not because the stories themselves are similar. How's that for some vague video recording? um, but that's, I'm telling you about my experience reading this book. And so as I was going along, at one point I'm like, oh, this This just sort of reminds me, just I'm making those connections, reminds me of this movie, excuse me. And then again at another part, oh, this sort of reminds me of this story. Just weird connect. Not even sure anybody else would make the connections that I made, but um, this story sort of evoked those in these particular cases. But now I'm definitely rambling. So just pick up Crossroads, read it, then I don't know, try to go to bed, um, and get over the emotional roller coaster that you're going to go through. But anyway, yeah, Crossroads, Laurel Hightower, Off Limits Press, 5 out of 5, highly recommended. So that being said, if you have any comments, questions, or corrections, please put them in the comments below. Comments are open for spoilers, so we can talk about some of these things that I'm vague videoing. I don't know. Just let's be polite. We put spoiler warnings when we're going to talk spoilers. Please like, share, and subscribe. That's all I've got. This has been the Low Budget Review Show. I have been Eric Smith, and until next time, read more books.